So 5 days ago, let's head out to the key battlegrounds that could determine control. Ryan Nobles is in Manchester, New Hampshire. Dasha Burns is in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Antonia Hylton's in Henderson, North Carolina. That's north of Research Triangle. In just a minute, I'll be joined by Shaq Brewter, who's on the ground in central Wisconsin. Right now, he's in the middle of a press gaggle with Senator Ron Johnson. So I want to start up with you, Ryan, up in Manchester. I think New Hampshire on election night, the most competitive Senate race that may tell us a little something about which party has the edge that we might be able to call on election night is New Hampshire Senate. What are you seeing on the ground today?
Yeah, Chuck, I think you're absolutely right. It may be the leading indicator on election night. It may not mean that Democrats are going to control the Senate if they win it, but if Republicans are successful, it's very likely that means they will take control of the chamber. This is a must-win for Democrats. And last night, the two candidates, the incumbent Senator Maggie Hassan, her challenger, Republican Don Bolduc, they had a debate last night, and they were talking about all those issues that you led off the show with, those bread and butter economic issues. And Don Bolduc had a very simple way of describing it to the audience that was watching last night. He said that people are concerned about how they heat and how they eat, talking about issues related to energy and the price at the grocery store. And he came back to that time and time and time again, and he blamed inflation and the cost of government spending directly on Democrats, including Joe Biden and Maggie Hassan. And there may not be a Democrat in the country who has worked harder to directly distance herself from Joe Biden in the closing days of this campaign than Maggie Hassan. Her closing argument ad that she put out to the voters here in New Hampshire specifically says that she's willing to stand up to the current president. Chuck, I've asked her about it 2 different times during my trip to New Hampshire, and both times she's volunteered the examples of how she stood up and criticized Joe Biden. So it is clear that Democrats feel that they've got to find a way to find some separation with the White House to convince voters. And a lot of the independent voters I've talked to, they're not necessarily Republican or Democrat. They're just unhappy with the way things are, and it's almost kind of a vote the bums out mentality. Democrats still feel that they can win here, but they've got to convince the voters to make that separation here in the closing hours of this campaign.
Hey, Ryan, what does the Hassan campaign say about how they've dealt with Bolduc? They spent a lot of time trying to disqualify him on character and on abortion rights and on election denialism. They didn't spend a lot of time talking about what his views might be on the economy.
Yeah. It's a great question, Chuck. A number of times last night in the debate, Maggie Hassan brought up the website that her campaign has created, which specifically outlines all these different examples that they have found of Don Bolduc's what they call extremism, his stance on entitlement programs, his denial of the 2020 election, the claims that he's made, for instance, about kitty litter in classrooms for children that identify as animals, which is just completely false. But the question that they believe is resonating with voters is that if you're trying to make a choice here and you're not necessarily unhappy with Maggie Hassan, you certainly don't want to go with the alternative. And they're hoping that planting that seed of doubt could be the difference on election night.
Ryan Nobles in New Hampshire, where I certainly believe that it's going to be perhaps the most important early side state that we'll get before midnight that can tell us a little something. Ryan, thank you. Let's move over to Pennsylvania, where sadly we won't have enough information by midnight on election night. But Dasha Burns,
no, we won't. This
is a barn burner right now. What are you seeing and hearing today?
Well, Chuck, to your point, when you opened the show, Fetterman was here in Luzerne County, which is part of our county-to-county project. We've been tracking voters in this area for quite some time now. He was doing an event with Senator Bob Casey. And guess what they talked about? It wasn't really abortion rights. It was certainly not threats to democracy. It was the economy and inflation, how to make the economy work for working-class families, of which there are many here in this county. And all of the voters that we talked to, particularly, Chuck, as you said it, the undecided ones, which do exist. We keep running into them here, folks who are undecided or perhaps still persuadable. They want to know how they are going to put food on the table and who is the leader that is going to do that. And so Fetterman really focusing on that issue here today, touting the successes of Democrats, of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is something that voters would have wanted to hear from the president last night, rather than the sort of more esoteric message around threats to democracy, which of course we have heard. But right now, top of mind, especially as winter comes here, is the economy, the price of gas, and the price of food. And Chuck, we've talked about this, but I continue to hear from voters who are considering splitting their ticket, and people are still talking about the debate here. I want you to hear from one voter who's sort of representative of folks here in Luzerne County. He's an IBEW lineman, used to be Blue Dog Democrat, now not so much, and he is one of those ticket splitters. Take a listen. When did you make up your mind for the Senate race?
Debate night, something like 8:30, when he talked about fracking. He was strongly against natural gas, and now all of a sudden he backstepped and said, "I'm not against natural gas. I want it in Braddock." It's not what he said in 2018.
When you look at the governor's race, why Shapiro, not Mastriano?
You can hold Shapiro accountable. Mastriano doesn't care if he's accountable or not. He doesn't speak to the media. He won't debate.
And Chuck Oz is holding an event tonight in Lackawanna County. Will be there as well. He'll be making his closing message, no doubt, talking about the economy and crime, as he has been for weeks now. I'll tell you, voters, though, say they're not particularly excited about either of the candidates right now. It does seem like most people are voting against the other rather than for the candidate that they will be casting their ballot for, Chuck.
Well, if you've been undecided this long, you don't love your choices. You're making the you are making the hold your nose decision if you've waited this long. Dasha Burns in Pennsylvania for us. Dasha, thank you. Antonia Hylton is in North Carolina. And Antonia, I know you got a few minutes with Sherry Beasley today. For what it's worth, I asked the Governor Cooper yesterday, 7 different ways from Sunday, whether he was talking up her candidacy, whether we'd see former President Obama come in for her. That decision hadn't been made yet, but what'd you learn?
That decision hasn't been made yet, although, you know, I think particularly when it comes to her efforts right now to drive up the black vote in counties like Henderson, the Henderson area, Vance County, where I am right now, you know, he would certainly be a huge asset to her. You know, interestingly, she's trying to walk 2 lines here. She talks about the economy and checkbook, you know, kitchen table issues, but she actually does talk more about threats to democracy than maybe some of the other candidates here, especially when she's in front of black crowds, like the one that gathered at this church behind me here. And that's because for many black voters, threats to democracy have, you know, some existential value and some sort of familial and historical value. You know, many black people have family members who struggled to vote only decades ago in this country. And so they are more comfortable having those conversations. But, you know, you should take a listen to a conversation I had with Beasley where when I tried to talk to her about inflation, about people's concerns about the cost of living, you know, instead of really talking about what Democrats can do, she took a look at Bud's record. Take a listen. What would you say to a voter who's worried the Democrats aren't the right people to really solve the economic crisis many people feel they're facing?
While Ted Budd has said a whole lot of things, what he hasn't talked about is what he's done. He's the one who's been in Congress for 6 years. He's had every opportunity to work hard to lower costs for folks here in North Carolina, which is a huge issue. People want to know that the next senator is going to fight hard to lower costs. They're feeling everything from pain at the pump to the cost of prescription drugs and everything in between.
Polls have you just behind Ted Budd. What are you going to do in these final days to make an upset happen?
You know, we knew this would be a tough fight. We're everywhere really touching folks and talking about not what my top 3 issues are, but what matters to them.
You know, in many ways, national Democrats have not helped Sherry Beasley out here because they've not only bungled their messaging on inflation and the economy, but they've just simply had a hard time explaining what Biden has actually been able to accomplish over the last 2 years. And so often Beasley has found herself in positions where she's trying to explain simply, you know, what Biden has done, what Democrats have proposed, and it's kind of taken her off her message. And she's right, you know, her opponent has been in Congress for 6 years. She hasn't had her job in D.C. yet. But, you know, it's kind of this tug of war right now between talking about the economy, trying to separate herself a bit from the president, but also speak to the serious issues like threats to the, you know, democracy and abortion that are still on the minds, especially of some of the voters that Democrats really do need to show up in full force here.
Boy, there's something about this entire North Carolina Senate campaign, Antonia, that just doesn't feel like it's fully matured. I don't know how else to put it. Like, it just feels like it needs another month. Do you know what I mean by this? Yeah, like they haven't had enough debates. There hasn't been enough back and forth. I keep telling people not
to sleep on this place.
But they're sleeping on their own race, I feel like. Yeah.
Both of them have decided that it's better for them to stay very disciplined on their messages. These are two candidates. It's Bud as well.
You're right.
You know, you cannot get him to stray from his talking
No,
points.
you can't. No, it's a very, very polite way to put it, Antonia. Anyway, Antonia Hylton in North Carolina for us. Antonia, thank you. Let me move over to Shaquille Brewster, who just got out of a gaggle, has been following the candidates around the state. You're with Ron Johnson right now. What are you learning, and how confident does he feel?
Well, Chuck, I'll let you just get a sense of what the campaign looks like right now. Ron Johnson, he just wrapped up a bus tour. He is going to be taking that bus to another stop, and we're seeing a lot of the candidates on similar tours. I was with Tony Evers earlier today, but you mentioned, and there you go, he's waving to some of his supporters. But we've seen a lot of the candidates doing this, as we really show in that Marquette University poll yesterday, showed that things are truly in this state neck and neck. Ron Johnson has a slight lead, but it is well within the margin of error. You're also seeing that on the governor's side. But one thing that we've been seeing on the trail, and I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, both in my interview with him, but also seeing it on the stump, you've been seeing him escalate the attacks against his opponent, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, and Democrats as a whole. You know, we heard from President Biden yesterday saying that democracy is on the ballot in this election. Well, Senator Ron Johnson is saying that the Democrats, if they get control, if Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes wins, he has disdain for the country. He has some ill will for the country. And that's been a repeated message that you've been hearing in this closing message. And it's almost took up more time than any other issue on the stump. Now, I also did ask him after the speech that he gave to supporters here, I asked him about the upcoming election, if on Tuesday he will accept those election results. And he said it depends, essentially. He pointed to the report out of Milwaukee today where an election official was fired because she tried to and did request absentee ballots and sent them to a Republican official, essentially trying to prove a point. He pointed to what we saw out of Green Bay with the lawsuit from the RNC. So you see from both sides people talking about this democracy issue, talking about the sanctity of the election here, and we got a sense of that from Senator Ron Johnson just a couple of minutes ago.
Well, Shaquille Brewster, it's been quite the campaign, and I think it's going to be a wild 96 hours, particularly in America's most polarized state.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.